Hello there, my dears. Today I want to talk about something that's affecting so many of us. Stress. Stress has a way of creeping into our lives like an uninvited guest, doesn't it? Sometimes it barges in with big life changes, health scares, job troubles, or family conflicts. Other times it seeps in slowly, the way water fills up a leaky boat, until you realize you're struggling just to stay afloat. But here's the good news. Stress doesn't have to control us. We have tools, strategies, what I like to call sharp swords, to cut through it and find peace, even in the middle of chaos. And today I want to share a few of those swords with you. My story. The most stressful week of my life. Before I dive into the practical advice, let me tell you a little story about one of the most stressful weeks I've ever lived through. It was back when my children were still young. Tom, my dear husband, was working overtime at the factory, and I was juggling 3 little ones at home. That week, everything that could go wrong did. First, the washing machine broke down, leaving me with piles of dirty laundry and no way to clean them. Then the car decided to quit on me, stranding me and the kids at the grocery store. To top it off, little Emma came down with a fever, and I was up all night worrying about her. By Thursday, I felt like I was holding the whole world on my shoulders, and it was too heavy to bear. I'll never forget the moment it all came to a head. I was standing in the kitchen trying to make dinner while Jake was crying about a missing toy, and Emma was clinging to my leg. The phone rang, and when I picked it up, it was a bill collector asking for money we didn't have. I snapped. I slammed the phone down, burst into tears, and sank to the floor right there in the kitchen. Tom came home to find me sitting on the linoleum, crying like a baby. He didn't say a word. He just sat down next to me, put his arm around me and said, "Suzie, we'll get through this. One thing at a time." And you know what? We did. But it wasn't magic or luck that got us through. It was the tools we used, the sharp swords we wielded, to cut through the stress and find our way back to peace. The sharp swords to kill stress. Now let me share with you some of those swords, because I know many of you are carrying heavy burdens right now. These aren't quick fixes or magical solutions, but they're practical, powerful tools that can help you take control of stress instead of letting it control you. Sword 1: Gratitude. When life feels overwhelming, one of the sharpest swords you can wield is gratitude. I know it sounds simple, maybe even too simple, but let me tell you, it works. During that stressful week, I started a little ritual every night before bed. I'd take out a scrap of paper and write down 3 things I was grateful for. Some nights, the list was tiny. The kids are asleep, I had a cup of tea, or the sun came out today. But even those little bits of gratitude were enough to shift my perspective. Gratitude doesn't erase the hard stuff, but it reminds us that there's still good in the world, even on the toughest days. Sword 2: Boundaries. Stress often comes from trying to do too much for too many people all at once. One of the most liberating things I've ever learned is that it's okay to say no. Back in those early days, I used to think I had to do it all, be the perfect mom, wife, friend, and neighbor. But I've learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. When you protect your time and energy, you have more to give to the things and people that matter most. Sword 3, a breathing space. Sometimes the best thing you can do in a stressful moment is to stop, take a deep breath, and step away. I remember one particular day when everything was going wrong. The kids were bickering, dinner was burning, and I felt like I was about to explode. Instead of yelling or crying, I went outside, sat on the porch, and closed my eyes. I took 10 deep breaths and let myself just be still. When I came back inside, the chaos was still there, but I felt calmer, like I could handle it. Sword 4, faith and surrender. For me, the greatest sword of all is faith. Stress often comes from trying to control things we can't control. But faith reminds us that we don't have to carry it all on our own. During that stressful week, I leaned heavily on Psalm 46 verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Those words became my mantra. Every time I felt like the world was spinning out of control, I'd whisper them to myself, and they'd bring me back to center. Another story, Maria's stressful season. Let me tell you about my dear friend Maria. She went through a season of stress that would have broken most people. Her husband lost his job, her mother fell ill, and her youngest daughter was struggling in school, all at the same time. Maria confided in me one afternoon saying, Suzie, I feel like I'm drowning. How do I get through this? I shared with her the swords I've just shared with you, and she took them to heart. She started a gratitude journal, set boundaries with people who were draining her energy, and carved out a little time each day to sit quietly with her Bible. It didn't fix everything overnight, but slowly, things began to shift. Maria's stress didn't disappear, but she became stronger. She found peace in the middle of the storm, and she came out of that season with a deeper sense of resilience and faith. Practical tips for reducing stress. If you're facing stress right now, here are a few simple practical steps you can take. 1. Write it down. Sometimes stress feels bigger because it's all swirling around in your head. Take a few minutes to write down what's worrying you. Seeing it on paper can help you feel more in control. 2. Take a walk. Movement is a powerful stress reliever. Even a short walk around the block can clear your mind and help you feel calmer. 3. Ask for help. You don't have to do it all on your own. Whether it's a friend, family member, or professional, reaching out for support can make a world of difference. 4. Focus on what you can control. When stress feels overwhelming, ask yourself, what's one thing I can do right now to make this moment a little better? A closing thought. My dear ones, stress is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define your life. You are stronger than you think, and you have the tools, those sharp swords, to cut through the stress and find peace. Remember, you're never alone in this journey. Whether it's a kind word from a friend, a moment of quiet prayer, or a small act of self-care, there is always something you can do to lighten the load. And when it feels like too much, lean on those who love you and on the one who loves you most of all. With all my love, Grandma Suzie. Thank you, my dears, for spending this time with me. Remember, life's journey is better when we walk it together. If these stories and reflections warmed your heart, be sure to subscribe and join me for more wisdom, comfort, and a little sprinkle of joy. Together, let's keep growing one story at a time. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and remember, you're never alone. Grandma loves you.